So even though sweep is, it takes a 2D cross section, a profile, and sweeps it along a path, you do have the option with these guide curves to drive the shape a little bit more. The downside to using a sweep for something like this is because we actually have a different shape that we're going to want to try to hit here in the back. But just keep in mind that sweep is available for things like that. And actually, just one other interesting thing for you real quick. Reference geometry. You can add points. Let's see, where do I want to add a point here? So I've got a point there. You can actually use loft to go from a cross section up to a point. This could be a complete closed profile here. I mean, it could be a circle going up to a single point. And we could also come in here and we could start and end constraints. We could drive this with, let's just say, let's drive it with our wing plane, and give it like a weight of 10. That's probably a bit extreme. So you can certainly drive these things. We could drive the angle. This angle number actually determines the direction from this plane. Now it doesn't always work out. It depends on your selection and what your what your profile and stuff are. But you do also have that option, and I guess I'm not sure how many people know that, but that is an option, especially when you're lofting, to go to a point. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do here is actually use a boundary surface. I'm going to go between that and that. For my direction 2, I'm going to use these 3D curves. And you can take a look. The nice thing about boundary surface as opposed to using filled is you have the curvature combs that you can look at here. And you can see the curvature comb out here kind of tapers off pretty drastically at the end. There's not a whole lot going on here, but it is a fairly nice blend between all 4 of these. If I was to come in here and do a filled surface, we don't really get that. We have preview mesh, but we don't really have any kind of a curvature cone relation. I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to OK that and show you some more of these evaluate tools. Let's see, deviation analysis. Now, this is an interesting one. If you defined a surface, let's go ahead, I'm going to just set this up real quick. I'm going to take this plane and let's offset it. Alright, so say you define the surface and you weren't real happy with the curvature that's happening in a certain space. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a split line, an intersection split line between this plane and this wing. So we get this curve right here. You can actually come back in here to evaluate and select that curve for your deviation analysis. I'm going to kick these points way up and calculate that. Alright, so what we're looking at here, I always do that. What we're looking at here, let me kick these points farther down so you can see this. You're looking at the change in curvature, kind of like when we use the curvature analysis tool here, but you're looking actually at it in with direction arrows. Now the downside to this is that you have to have a curve or an edge that you can pick to use that, but you can go in there easily and use a plane to create a split line, or use a sketch to create a split line. Say you wanted the line to, you didn't want it planar, you wanted sort of like a spline curve to split a body. You can do that, and you can look over here. The color bar will show you the deviation here, and you can edit the colors and things like that. But for a really broad curve, you can kick these points way up, and you can get a really high resolution out of it. In this case, we don't really need to do that. It doesn't really bias anything. But I just wanted to show you that tool, because a lot of times you click on that and it's kind of hard to understand how to use it, because you start clicking things and you realize that nothing's really working. You click this line and laminar edges can't be evaluated. So just keep that in mind if you ever want to try to use this tool, that you can come in there and you can split a surface or something like that. And what you're going to want to do is, you're probably not going to want to keep these. Delete that plane, delete that split line, but they are there for you to use. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and save, and let's see, out here on the wing plane, let's go ahead and create another sketch. And now we don't have to worry about the pierce relation. We have the actual surface we created, and we can use the endpoints from these surfaces. So what we need to do now is draw the bottom shape of the wing. Now, I could have done these both in the same sketch. Depending on the shape of the wing, it's probably not going to be a mirror image of it, but it would probably be pretty close for our purposes. I just wanted to do it in two different steps to kind of show you the difference between sweep and loft and boundary, and some of the evaluation tools, like seeing the curvature combs while you're creating the boundary surface. And it's a little bit easier to see with just that top surface there. Alright, this bottom one, I'm actually going to do 45 degrees on the front, and I'm actually going to make the back fairly shallow, so I'm going to go 75 degrees, and I want to give this a little bit more weight. I'm going to do 750 and 500. No, that's probably not going to look very good, and we don't want to do it that little, so let's say 200 on the back. Let's do 300 on the front and see what that looks like. That's a fairly decent wing profile. Alright, so let's go ahead and exit that. And before we create another sketch on the right plane, let's just play with this a little bit. Since we have the boundary surface tool, let's select that as direction 1, and let's grab these edges for direction 2 and just see what we get out of this thing. Alright, so here's where the curvature combs come in handy. Now we can see out here on the edge of the wing, that obviously follows the sketch we created. And because we don't have a sketch back here on this right plane, you can see these are slowly blending out. We can add a direction vector to this sketch out here. We can select the wing plane, and that'll push it just a little bit more. We can add some more influence to that. You can see this curvature comb here changes a little bit, but it's really not that drastic of a change, and we're talking about a fairly small sketch driving it a pretty far distance in the grand scheme of things. So playing around with that's really not going to do much for us. So what we really want to do is come in here and we'll draw another spline, and I'm just going to rotate this thing around so I can actually see these points. And a lot of times, depending on your graphics card, you might have trouble selecting some of these things depending on how the surrounding geometry is. So you might need to rotate to a different angle. And one thing you can always do is you can right click and do select other, and depending on where your cursor is at the time, you might get what you're looking for, you might not. So I got that endpoint. Got that, and I can always go in and I can hide all this other stuff too, but I think it's a lot easier for you guys to see what I'm doing if I don't hide too much. Alright, so some more construction lines. You don't necessarily have to add as many construction lines as I am, or you could add more. I mean, you definitely don't need to limit yourself. You could a lot of times pick up on other lines and other sketches to add these dimensions. I'm going to give this one, and again I'm picking these numbers out of the air. I don't I don't have any sort of cheat sheet in front of me that's like wing,